Hi everyone, Leah here, the founder of TaskRabbit. Thanks so much for joining us for our third episode of Collaboratively Speaking. On today's show, we're going to be talking with John Zimmer and Logan Green, the co-founders of ZimRide, a peer-to-peer ride-sharing service. They're actually great friends of mine. We met back in 2009 when we were both doing Facebook Fun together. So they've got some interesting stories to share about collaborative consumption in the peer-to-peer ride-sharing space. Let's go check out what they have to say. John, Logan, thank you so much for joining me for Collaboratively Speaking. Really excited to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're the co-founders of ZimRide. Can you tell me a little bit about what ZimRide is?
Sure. So ZimRide is a ride-sharing community. So the way it works is drivers can go on and post a ride wherever they're going from point A to point B. They say how many seats they have in their car and how much they're charging. And then other people can go on who need rides, search, find people going the same direction they are, and book and pay for a seat through the site. We were kind of developing different angles of the same business.
Okay.
So I went to school down in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And my girlfriend at the time was in LA. So I was taking this trip probably every other weekend.
Oh, wow.
Working hard for it. She's now my wife.
Oh, see, there you go.
So it paid
it's
off.
Worth it, yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't know how to get down. I didn't have a car at the time, and I discovered Greyhound, which I thought was brilliant in the beginning. It was incredibly cheap, poor college kid, but $12 fit the budget. But terrible things started happening. The bus caught on fire once.
Seriously?
And, yeah. We
no.
were stranded in Oxnard, and 2 different times I was riding back and sat next to an inmate who had just been released from prison. So
that's intense.
It was a little sketchy, and then you get dropped off. So I was going down to LA, and you get dropped off at midnight in a bus depot in downtown LA.
Right.
So it was pretty uncomfortable.
The experience wasn't really what you were looking for, end to end. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I started. I was trying to bum rides from friends. I was desperate to find any other way to get home, and I discovered Craigslist.
Okay.
And Craigslist actually has a pretty robust ride-sharing community.
Now, what year is this? Just to kind of
this is
setting.
Back in 2004, 2005.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like way before the age of collaborative consumption, sharing economy. This is,
right.
Wow, like 8 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
This is when eBay and Craigslist were collaborative consumption. And,
right.
Yeah, nobody used that term.
Right.
And so I had these great experiences on Craigslist, and met great people, got down to LA in 2 hours. It was much more direct. It was even cheaper than Greyhound.
Okay.
I thought this is an incredible form of transportation, but each time there was this anxiety before you were meeting someone. Anytime you deal with Craigslist, you're dealing with an anonymous email address, a Hotmail account on the other end, and you have no idea who that person is.
Yeah.
So I started thinking as Craigslist, as Facebook was kind of becoming the identity of the internet, I started thinking about how can we take this really unique form of transportation and make it more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to make this so that anybody feels comfortable going on and sharing rides?
My kind of how I came to ZimRide, I went to the hotel school at Cornell. I was really interested in hospitality and finance there, and then I took a class outside in city and regional planning called Green Cities.
Okay.
And one of the classes was on transportation, the evolution of transportation
Okay.
from in the Northeast, so canals, light rail, trolleys, and then railroad, and then highways.
Yeah.
And the professor kept talking, and I was thinking, what would be next? If there is a 5th slide in this presentation or a picture in this presentation, what's going to be next in 10 years? And I didn't think it was some crazy infrastructure like flying cars
Spaceships.
or something we're not thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it had to do with the existing infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the stats that the professor mentioned was that 80% of seats are empty at all times. And so coming from the hotel school background, I think about occupancy.
Okay.
Right? And so on occupancy, 20% occupancy. And if you think about a hotel with that, they'd be out of business.
Right.
And so I started thinking, why have we accepted 20% occupancy on our highways?
Yeah.
This is not right. And if we could solve it, this could be the 5th slide. This efficiency, this ZimRide network, this could be the next form of transportation.
What do you guys see happen on ZimRide when someone shares a ride in the car, sometimes long trips, right? Like 4 or 5 hours. Are there interesting relationships or stories being built there?
There's this incredible story that kind of ties the old world of hitchhiking to the new world of ZimRide.
Okay.
Where a girl was leaving her school, going home, riding with a guy, and he had hitchhiked with her grandfather. There was this whole story about how they figured this out, because over the summer, this guy was in this really small town in Iowa. Okay. But what they ended up finding out was that he had this experience with her grandfather, and then they were ZimRiding together, which is kind of like how small the world is, but it also ties together kind of the old and the new, which is cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Tell me about the different locations people are traveling to. Are there any really funny, interesting ones? What's sort of the normal one, the most popular?
The most popular right now are, out of the San Francisco kind of hub, are Tahoe and Los Angeles.
Okay. And are these usually like weekend trips or?
Trend's definitely higher on the weekend,
okay.
but there are trips throughout the week.
Cool.
And so the economics there are that if you want to get a ZimRide down to Los Angeles, it costs about $35. So as a driver round trip, you can make $200, where you probably were spending $100 on gas.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Tahoe is about $25 to $30, and then that driver makes a little under $200.
Now, do you guys set those fees and pricing, or how does that work?
We suggest a price.
Okay.
It's up to the driver to determine if they want to increase that or decrease that.
What's the craziest ZimRide that you guys have seen posted on the site?
We've seen people post planes.
Planes?
Yeah.
So what do you mean? Like they're flying?
They have extra seats.
A plane.
So like the basic premise of what we're doing is seats are empty.
It's not just cars, right?
We've had planes. We've had buses. Bikes was kind of a joke. We've had walking buddies or bike buddies where you would go at the same time on separate bikes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But then Logan.
Any tandem bikes?
We haven't seen that.
An extra seat on tandem.
Yeah. So as thinking about sort of old and new technologies coming together, as you guys know, the big trend right now is this social location and mobile sort of forming this basis for the sharing economy and collaborative consumption. How are you guys leveraging those technologies at ZimRide?
The first piece is the social piece, and that's really the glue of identity. And I think other people have talked about sort of breaking up the internet into 3 stages. You had the first decade in the 90s. AOL was mailing out CDs. It was a gold rush to get people online.
Right.
And then you had the 2000s, where it was about figuring out what social networking meant. Facebook, springing into the social platform. And I think this decade is about taking those relationships that you make online, offline.
And then are you seeing some interesting things develop in mobile as well for you guys?
Yeah, so we've been putting a lot of work into mobile. We had Frank Yu join us recently.
Oh, cool.
He's the lead designer from LinkedIn, and he came over to lead and build out our mobile strategy. So we just rolled out the first product of that, which is mobile web.
Awesome. So an optimized version of the site right on your mobile phone. What are you going to be able to do on the mobile web version?
So the first thing people want to do is they want to see what rides are going on around them.
Okay.
So that's what we surface. You open it up and you can see, where can I get using ZimRide? You can scroll down listings and see the same type of profiles. You can message people. You can book and pay for rides through the app.
Oh, wow.
And then you can post if you're wanting to take a last minute trip, saying I'm headed out the door, I'm going to Tahoe in the next hour. Go and post that and find someone to ride
So
with.
fully functional. It sounds like you guys really got everything in there. So what sort of security mechanisms do you guys have in place? Kind of back to the whole Craigslist thing. What sort of vetting do you do? Restrictions? How do you think about that?
So at ZimRide from the very beginning, Logan built it so that Facebook is kind of core to log in. So on our public platform, we have public site, and we also have individual networks. So on the public platform, it requires Facebook to log in.
Okay.
And by doing that, then others can see your photo. They can see if you have mutual friends.
Have you seen any pushback with that? The forcing the Facebook Connect? Because we definitely saw it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing, right? There's some users that just aren't comfortable connecting with Facebook.
It's a constant balance act, right? We need to get a lot of people in to use the service so that it works and people can find rides.
Right.
And we also have to provide a really nice base of trust so that people are going to use the service. it also makes it easier for the user. You don't have to build out a whole new profile, upload a photo.
Right. It's a much richer, more streamlined experience.
Right.
And when you look at reasons why people share a ride, mutual friends is one of the top reasons. You see that you have a friend in common. You can't do that without something like Facebook Connect.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. So tell me a little bit about building communities, because you have this rich user experience. You have these communities online, but then they also connect offline as well. How do you think about engaging and cultivating the community that you're building?
Yeah, so I think it's about finding a core of people who have something in common, and starting with that base. So that relates back to how we build trust. We've started with university communities across the country. There's now 120 organizations using ZimRide in over 30 states, and typically larger organizations. So we'll go there, and you get it's a great introduction to using the service and feeling comfortable with the community when you come in and you're sharing rides with someone else at your school. It's a totally different story than just getting on a service and being matched up with a total stranger. The other piece that we found has been really effective for us are events.
Okay.
So when people are sharing a ride to Coachella, for example, or we're working with Bonnaroo this summer.
Oh, cool.
You're excited, everybody's kind of in the same mode, you're talking about the bands and the music you like, and what you're gearing up for the weekend.
It makes that whole experience, right, of these events actually more fun when you're sharing the ZimRide together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where do you think collaborative consumption is going next? Do you think there's any untapped industries out there that we haven't seen start to develop yet?
Yeah, I think it started in places that are economically tough on people. So you've seen a lot in housing, so Airbnb, right? That's the number one household expense in the U.S.
Right.
And then transportation, the number two household expense in the U.S.
Right.
So I think it's interesting to look at what are the next few expenses, and I think entertainment is one of those. And so I think some type of, and we're already seeing it, like people have their own, entertainment, channels.
Collaboratively speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I think collaboratively generated entertainment content, I think that's going to become big.
What's next for you guys? What's the big thing on the horizon you're working towards?
So definitely launching more kind of these routes. So we're focused right now on the San Francisco to LA, San Francisco to Tahoe. But we want to expand that obviously across the country. The goal over the next 16 to 24 months is so that people in the US can say, I could take the bus, I could fly, or I could ZimRide.
Yeah. Well, John, Logan, thank you so much for joining me for Collaboratively Speaking. It was really fun to get the inside scoop on ZimRide and what's happening there, and it was great to have you guys here.
Yeah, thanks for
a
having
lot.
us.
All right.